Hello and welcome to Magic and Pathfinder 2nd Edition Part 12, Staves. In a previous video, I covered Scrolls and Wands, which are the other two common spellcasting items. If you haven't already viewed the video covering those items, you may want to do so before continuing with this video, as this one does build on information delivered in that video. A link to the video on Scrolls and Wands is included in the description. Staves work a little different than Scrolls and Wands and have the following properties. Unlike Scrolls and Wands, Staves can usually cast more than one spell, and all of a staff's available spells are listed in its description. Some staves may have other uses beyond casting spells, which are detailed in their descriptions. For example, a Staff of Illumination can be used to cast the Light cantrip, 2nd level Continual Flame, 3rd level Continual Flame, and Searing Light. And in addition to its spells, you can also use one action to cause the staff itself to light up like a torch. Like many other magic items, staves can come in different varieties. When there are more than one version of a staff, all higher level versions are able to cast all the spells available to lower level versions. For example, a regular Verdant Staff can cast Tanglefoot, Shillelagh, Barkskin, Entangle, Shapewood, and Tree Shape. And a greater Verdant Staff can cast all of those spells as well as Wall of Thorns, Barkskin, Speak with Plants, Plant Form, and Wall of Thorns. These are the spells that a staff contains, but in order to cast them, you need to meet 3 criteria. First, the spell must appear on your spell list. Second, you must be able to cast spells of the appropriate level. So unlike with Scrolls and Wands, where spell levels are not restricted, with staves you must be able to cast the spells of that level. And the third requirement is you must expend a number of charges from the staff equal to the spell level of the spell being cast. So let's talk about those charges. Every morning as part of daily preparations, the staff's owner focuses some of their energy into it. Doing so ties the staff to them and them alone, meaning no other person may use the staff for that day. Also, a character may not prepare more than one staff per day. This process does not cost the staff's owner anything. They do not exhaust any of their spell slots while preparing their staff, and the staff gains a number of charges equal to its owner's highest level spell slot. Any unused charges are lost at the end of the day and do not carry over to the next. Casting spells from a staff works mostly the same way as with Scrolls and Wands. You have to hold it with one hand and spend a number of actions as required by that spell. You also need to exhaust a number of charges equal to the spell level of the spell being cast. For example, Lenny the Druid has a Verdant Staff with 6 charges. Casting Shillelagh costs 1 charge. Casting Speak with Plants costs 4 charges. And casting Tanglefoot costs no charges since it's a cantrip. Cantrips can be cast with a staff at will an unlimited number of times per day, just like with regular cantrips. These cantrips are also automatically heightened to the same level as cantrips the user can usually cast, which for Lenny would mean that she can use her Verdant Staff to cast Tanglefoot heightened to 6th level as often as she likes. When you cast from a staff, you use your spell attack bonus and spell DC, but unlike with Scrolls and Wands, when casting with a staff, you still must provide any required material component or any other cost, as well as use any required focus. And last, it's worth noting that magic staves are also melee weapons like any other mundane staff. As such, they can benefit from fundamental runes like potency runes and striking runes, but they may not benefit from any property runes. These runes only enhance its use as a melee weapon and do not add to the caster's spell attack bonus or the number of dice rolled for any damaging spells. And adding fundamental runes to a magic staff does not interfere with any of its spellcasting or other special abilities. Those are the general rules for how staves work, but prepared and spontaneous spellcasters each have their own special twist to those rules. First, let's talk about prepared casters. Prepared spellcasters, like clerics, druids, witches, and wizards, can choose to spend one and only one of their spell slots during their morning preparations to add more charges to their staff for that day. When doing so, the staff gains a number of additional charges equal to the expended spell slot's level. So, for example, Lenny is a 12th level druid with a greater verdant staff. As part of her daily preparations, she prepares her staff and channels primal magic into it. As a 12th level druid, her highest level spell slot is 6th. Therefore, her verdant staff gains 6 charges that can be used to cast spells from it during the coming adventuring day. And because she is a druid, which is a prepared spellcaster, Lenny could also choose to exhaust one of her spell slots to add more charges to the staff. If she chooses to exhaust a 6th level spell slot, then the staff would gain 6 more charges, giving it a total of 12 charges. If she exhausts a 3rd level spell slot, then the staff would gain 3 more charges, giving it a total of 9, and so on. This decision to add charges may only be made during daily preparations and not later. So prepared casters have an extra way to boost their staff's power during their morning preparations, and spontaneous casters, like bards, oracles, and sorcerers, have an extra way to boost the casting of their staff spells. Spontaneous spellcasters can spend their own spell slots to reduce the number of charges that are consumed when casting with a staff. When a spontaneous spellcaster activates a staff, they can choose to expend 1 charge from the staff and one of their spell slots to cast a spell from the staff of the same level or lower as the expended spell slot. For example, instead of a druid like Lenny, let's say a sorcerer with the elemental bloodline was casting with a greater verdant staff. If they're 12th level, then during daily preparations, the staff would start the day with 6 charges. But since they're a sorcerer, which is a spontaneous caster and not a prepared spellcaster, they cannot spend one of their own spell slots to add more charges to the staff during daily preparations. Instead, later in the day while adventuring, the sorcerer decides to use their staff to cast Wall of Thorns, a 5th level spell. They can do this in one of 2 ways. They can either use 5 of the staff's charges to cast Wall of Thorns, leaving it with only 1 charge left for the remainder of the day, or they could spend only 1 charge from the staff, leaving it with 5 charges, but also need to spend one of their own 5th or 6th level spell slots to cast the spell. So prepared spellcasters get an extra bonus when preparing their staff, but spontaneous casters act in the moment and they get an extra bonus not when preparing, but when actually casting from their staff. Before we close, I'd like to take a moment to thank all of my patrons. These videos would not be possible without their continued generosity and support. Members of the How It's Played Patreon community receive special benefits like exclusive content and getting to vote on the topics I cover. Visit the links shown at the top of the screen and in the description if you'd like to know more. If you would like to support this channel and help it grow, the easiest way to do that is by subscribing and clicking the bell icon so you get notified when new videos release. And I can always be reached through Twitter and Facebook too. Thanks for watching, take care, and happy gaming!